We are live.
Cool. Hi, Cuz.
Yeah. So, hello, everybody. Today I am joined by my cousin, musician, recording engineer, cameraman, video director, producer, and editor, tech aficionado, Matthew Howe.
What's up, Cuz? How you doing?
Yay, hi,
What's
cousin.
up?
So
West of the
I'm so
Rockies. You're on the air. Go ahead, caller.
I'm so excited to be talking to you. First of all, I have to say thank you for your patience because I kept postponing this interview because of all the events that have been happening in our country these last couple of weeks. So thank you for your patience.
No problem. No problem. All good.
And before we get going here, why don't you kind of give us your elevator pitch of who you are and what you do?
Okay. Well, I've been in the entertainment business my entire life. Started out as a musician, performing musician, songwriter. I then became a recording engineer, producer for many years. That led me into editing. That led me into being a cameraman on the road. That then took me into directing live concerts. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the last several years now.
Nice.
But not right now.
Right.
This is weird to be home at this time of year right now because I haven't been home at this time of year in years. It's weird.
Which is nice because you have a family, 3 beautiful kids.
Yeah, and well, yeah, the ones that weren't even in school. Yeah, used to be like, yeah, Daddy's going to be gone all summer, but now, like, now we're all together. It's kind of it's cool.
Yeah, and you have a beautiful little studio there in your home, so that's nice.
Yeah, definitely helps. to have the man cave.
Yeah, cool. So just before we get too deep here, I just want to obviously acknowledge what is happening in our country right now because I think it's really important to support Black Lives Matter and this whole movement. And part of my way of doing that is to keep a dialogue going. So I want to ask you how you're in Campbell, California.
Yep.
Now, and so I'm curious how have there been protests in Campbell, and how has that been? What does it look like?
Well, you know, our sleepy little town of Campbell sits next to San Jose, which, you know, I never expected San Jose, to be honest with you, to be on the map as far as protesters are concerned. But they're out there blocking the freeways. They're out there lighting stuff on fire downtown. I'm like, oh, come on, this is not my city. It was really kind of startling, to be honest with you. And yeah, we have had some protests in Campbell, but they've all been very peaceful for the most part, and mostly students from the local high schools, you know, on street corners holding up signs. So it's been a good thing, I think, in a lot of ways. But I didn't really think I'd see it all around here like I have.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the purpose of it is that it's everywhere, you know, and this affects people everywhere. At all
absolutely, it truly is. And you know, more than I ever thought it would, it's everywhere. You're right. And it continues to this day, and it's been quite a while now.
Yeah, and I'm sure you know, are you aware? Have you seen it at all within your industry, like being out on the road at all?
Well, of course, we haven't been out on the road, you know, at all this year, and that's kind of a whole fascinating thing when you make your living traveling 9 months of the year, and you're basically shut down and having to reinvent yourself. It's definitely I've had yet to see it out on the road in that sense, and how that's going to work out. You know, who knows?
Yeah, well, I think it will. I'm seeing, you know, like the catering that I do, all of a sudden I'm seeing it there now in a way that I haven't in the past, even though I know that it's always been there. It's really coming to surface now. I think every industry is going to be changed radically. Hopefully we want it to be changed, you know, but I do think there's going to be hopefully radical change happening. So let's talk about life on the road. So as you mentioned, you're used to touring almost year round all the time. You've toured with some really big, exciting names like Journey and Linkin Park, which was my favorite, Backstreet Boys, Barbara Streisand, Yanni. Oh my God, most recently Bob Seger. Oh, Tom Petty. I know you have you took some of the last video of him alive, which is pretty incredible.
I did indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's life? What is that life even like? Because I think most people don't. You see that from backstage, and I had the great honor of sitting with you during one of Tom Petty's last concerts, actually, from the side of the
That's right.
stage,
Yeah.
and that was so cool for me to see that from the tech side. I'm also a little bit of a tech nerd, but it's a very different side than the performing side. Even though I would argue that a lot of you guys are all are artists in your own right, and we will talk about your art. You
Sure.
are a musician.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
but what is that like for the people that don't know?
Well, it's not for everybody. First of all, you've you got to get along with people.
Yeah.
You're it's like a family though. At the same time, I spend more time with my road family than I do usually with my own family at home. And every tour you go out on, you have a new family, and you eventually get close with a lot of them, and it becomes a group, a team, and basically a family of people working together. And this whole bus thing is kind of fascinating, and how we're
Yeah.
going to
Living
handle the
on
whole traveling thing, and how the arenas are going to adapt. Perhaps, I mean, it's right now it's all about the sports arenas and what they're going to do and how we're going to try and get people in seats, and they have a lot of new ideas. They have a lot of, I mean, we've never done this before. So we have a
right.
lot of new, innovative ways of looking at things, and all the leaders of all the entertainment industry are constantly getting together and trying to figure out how to go forward with this, with thermal scanners and the way they are going to arrange seating, perhaps take seats out. I mean, we're still only talking about maybe filling up an arena of 20%. How's that going to work out financially?
Exactly. It
It's
has that
not.
number.
It's not.
Right.
They've talked about staying in one arena for multiple shows, perhaps. To try and make up for the lack of people in one show. They're talking about artists doing 2 shows in one day. That'll never happen.
Never happened. They do that now.
I mean,
That's not unheard of
I can't
now.
imagine that's going to go over very well. And still, after doing 2 shows in one day, you're still not going to get the capacity you would have last year with one show.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so it's 4 seats in between, 1 row in between. How's this going to work out? I mean, you still got to go to the concession stand and the bathroom, right?
Yeah. Well, if you saw the pictures of that show that they did in Nashville, I think, one of the first guys who did a show, and they had in the bathroom, they had caution tape, and like every 2 urinals had caution tape over it. But you kind of bring up an interesting point. First of all, I personally would hate to go to, part of what I love about going to a concert is being surrounded by a lot of people. So I hate the idea of being so far apart. But let alone the fact that of like the crew who is and the health of the crew, which is always kind of forgotten or considered last minute. Nobody's really talking about that. I mean, you guys live in a tour bus together. You're sleeping a foot away from each other.
10 of us.
There's 10 of you.
At least.
10 of you to one bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think those buses are so cool, though. You took me on one.
Yeah, I don't know how you can get away from the proximity effect on a bus, even if you put 6 people on a bus, which would be unaffordable, I would imagine. I just, you're still right next to each other. I don't see how it's going to be possible to keep social distancing on a tour bus.
Yeah.
Even you could fly everybody. Yeah, I mean, I'm just really not sure how we're going to go about making this work yet.
There's going to be radical changes. I mean, hopefully, obviously, there will be a vaccine at some point and we can maybe go back to normal. But I guess drive-ins is a new model that they're really exploring too.
Yes, they are. They are starting to talk about, and they've even done it over in Europe with building an outdoor stage and having all the cars pull up and. Well, okay, why not? It's a car version of Sturgis.
Yeah, not how I want to experience a concert. So yeah, it's really scary. So how are crew people like yourself handling lockdown or quarantine? Even though we're starting to come out of it now, but really, crew people aren't. The technicians, and so what does that look like to you and to people you know?
Well, we're all just kind of twiddling our thumbs right now and trying to be patient. But I think a lot of gigs have gone away. A lot of concerts have been postponed till next year. At the same time, once this gets going, everybody's going to want to be out there. There'll be plenty of work.
That's true.
But I
That's
think in the
true.
meantime, like right now, I'm kind of using this time to relearn some programs, learn some new ones that I need to know better. It's a perfect time to, hunker down and watch a lot of YouTube videos and update your software programs. I've been editing.
Like what
I've been
programs?
editing a lot
Give
more. I'm using all the Adobe Suite stuff right now. I've delved way into working on some music videos for people I
Oh,
can't mention necessarily due to non-disclosure agreements. Um, but some
boo.
very popular people that everybody knows. I'm working on some promo things for them. I'm actually working on some website stuff for some people. Just trying to stay, things that I can do from home, basically, and
Yeah.
still stay in the business, without having to travel.
Yeah. And writing? Are you
Ah,
writing at
yes,
all?
writing. Yes, doing a screenplay from a book adaptation right now too. So that's taken a lot of time, and
Yeah, cool.
yeah, that's going to be a
Yeah,
long process too because it's 13 episodes. So
yeah, that's really
I'm on
exciting.
episode 3.
Okay. Well, that's a step in the right direction. And you sent me, I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it was, but you did send me like a trailer for a project.
Uh,
Is that
oh, that
happening?
was that was. Ooh, I'm not sure which trailer I sent you. Was that the tour bus trailer?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, that was simply a joke.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want
that
to see
particular
that
trailer
show
was
though.
just fun, basically, just for
Okay,
fun.
so I wish I could show people. You should put it up there anyways.
I,
Because if there's a link to it, we should put it in. It was just this idea of like a reality show of life on the road and what that looks like. And I was all in.
well, I mean, that's basically what the joke was all about, and the fact that there's never really been one ever, and there
Right.
never will be, ever, probably, because we just don't want to let everybody know what's really going on out there. There was a reality show that was attempted at one point, uh, that was the original roadie movie type thing, and everybody shut that down. And the person was told they'd get blacklisted, and like, yeah, it didn't go well.
Well,
And then they
well
created that silly
why?
sitcom or whatever you want to call it, drama show called Roadie that was way off the mark,
Is
way
it
off the
because
mark,
there's
which we were
exploitation
happy
going
about.
on? Is there exploitation going on that you're trying, where people are trying to hide, or is
Oh
it
no,
just,
nothing like that.
yeah,
Yeah, we kind of like our life and don't want everybody to know too much about it because a lot of it is very private, and we do sign lots of
okay,
agreements
that's
where we can't talk about things, show anything,
true.
take photos. You notice that there isn't a whole bunch of like backstage footage anywhere on YouTube,
Yeah,
right?
I know. Well, that's
I mean, not
true.
real stuff. So yeah, so that's why. I mean, we're not allowed to even have our phone out sometimes when the artist is on stage. So
Well, that's true. Oh, really?
yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
we're there. We're out there to protect them as best as we can, in our own way. I mean, we stay in separate hotels as they do, and lots of times, and they're across town from us, and we just kind of like sometimes we're just um, a scapegoat or a deterrent for finding out where the artist really is because they always think when they find the band or the crew that that's where the artist is, and usually it's not the case. So
no, it's probably a diversion tactic, actually.
exactly, sure.
All right. So post production world, which you work a lot in, you do a lot of editing and directing. What does that look like post pandemic? Does that change at all? Because I mean, editing is editing, but the content maybe changes.
Yeah, we're looking at, a lot more things like Zoom calls, multi-window editing things that are happening. I don't know if you've seen a lot of these, shows on TV where you've got like 12 windows up and
Yeah.
everybody's interacting and like there's
Yeah.
nice little frames going on and a lot of that stuff's going back to their broadcast studio and they're cutting it from there. It's not something you could easily do from home necessarily. But I think we're going to just see different content, like you said. A a little bit more distant content, if you will, because of this whole COVID thing. And I think there's going to be more post-production stuff now possible, and more of that kind of job. There's a ton of those kind of editing. There's a ton of editing jobs and a ton of directing jobs opening up here in Silicon Valley. Every time I turn around, there's another one listed. And there, of course, there, 99% of them are, corporate stuff, but the need for that seems to be becoming more and more popular right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you familiar with OBS Studio?
I've heard of that, but I don't know what that is exactly. No.
Okay, it's a software that allows you to edit streams in kind of a more creative way. There's a real big demand for that here. For like the theater specifically, where people are trying to do readings online and productions online, and it gets really boring after a while just be looking at these boxes. So OBS is one of the many platforms, I'm sure it's the one that I know of, that allows you a little bit more flexibility, but nobody knows how to work it. So people like you actually are going to be in super high demand, and everyone keeps saying, where can I find somebody to hire to teach me how to use this? But my question is to you, how do you feel about that? Because what I find is that the people who know this stuff don't want to teach it because, right?
Well,
because it's different.
That's a great question. Now, see, I have actually, and that brings up a great point, because recently I have been kind of hired to save some projects and polish turds, basically. And it's not something I would recommend for just anybody, but it's a niche market right now. If you have the knowledge, if you or at least can work through certain programs and troubleshoot things, it's huge right now. I've been saving 3 or 4 different projects lately, and it's absolutely making me crazy. But the client's really happy.
And you're getting paid,
and
right?
I'm getting paid. No, I'm not actually. But the point being is there's room for a lot of that. I'm doing some teaching remotely, even over calls. I'm actually editing websites at the same time with people in other states, and we're literally going back and forth, exchanging different things. Both able to edit at the same time, and like having real time discussions about what looks good, what doesn't. Same with some video editing stuff, and so the whole interactive thing is going to become more and more important too. And the ability to do that. A lot of people are having issues with I can't get on a Zoom call. I'm having technical issues. Really simple things like that people really, there's going to be more and more a need for somebody to be able to technically jump in and make that work.
Yeah, which I guess is positive because it opens up jobs. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the people who know how to do that, like yourself, are artists. And helping people with the skills that you have acquired, like editing and video and design, even, you have those skills. But because you are an artist, isn't it to some degree like soul crushing to to isolate the skills from the art side of it? I mean, I know this is what you do in many ways for a living. So, but do you find
as on that point? Thinking about being a performing musician, and that's what I wanted to be originally for a long, long time.
Right.
And sitting on the side of the stage directing a concert when you're like going, I wish I was 30 feet away on the stage, but instead I'm right here next to the stage.
Yeah.
I mean, I deal with that every night, and there can be some frustrations, like, gosh, I could be that guy. I could have been that guy. But a lot of us, are frustrated musicians and or didn't quite make it. But, so that's why we're working for these artists, because we were close, but, and we're still close. We're on the same stage, but nobody's looking at us. Right?
Yeah.
But we're a big part of the show,
Yeah, totally. It's like drama teachers who are, wanted to be actors, but now they're drama teachers
Right?
to a smaller extent. Yeah.
Exactly.
But as you know, there is always, I'm a big fan of finding another way. So how do
Me too.
you fulfill
Me
what?
too.
Yes, I know you are. So how do you fulfill? So tell us about your another way, how you fulfill, get your artistic, fill that need while still paying your bills by being on the side of the stage.
Wow. Well, there's still, as a video director, there's still a lot of challenge. Technically, there's still a lot of excitement. There's still a lot of satisfaction. And there's also a serious amount of disappointment if things go wrong. I'm my
Yeah.
own worst enemy, and I put myself on suicide watch after a few shows, and it can be
Yeah.
rough. But you know what? You're your own worst enemy. You ask somebody in the bus, and they're like, "Going, no, dude, it looked great tonight." You're like, oh,
Right.
"Okay."
And there's always another night. Then there's always the next night. You get to
When
do it
it's
again.
live, you can't go back and fix it. That's another thing, and
Yeah,
and
that's
the
true.
whole flying by the seat of your pants sometimes is what makes it really stressful, but also very rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Um,
Uh,
not sure
yeah,
if I answered the
and
question or not exactly, but
well, you like video editing. There is like an element of design to that. So I can understand, and you get to collaborate. So I can understand you satisfying your artistic juices through that. But you also, I mean, I don't know, how often do you play still? Do you still play and kind of
all
write?
the time, every
Yeah.
day now that I'm home. Been practicing a lot, getting my chops back up. Started writing again.
Yeah.
Rebuilt a couple things in the rack over here, and then got some new software and another computer, and back into the Pro Tools world, and yeah, it's actually been really really fun and really exciting,
Right.
and I've gone through phases of that my whole life, in and out of, okay, I'm home for a while. Now I can like hang out with my musician friends and maybe go jam across the street in a live show and this and that.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different world, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I have an entirely different world at home than I do on the road, which
Right.
is, kind of it's like living two lives, sort of. A lot of people
Yeah.
on the
So
road
how
don't
do
even
you,
know I'm a musician, oddly enough. So
I know, I find that so
you just
weird.
don't have time for it necessarily, unless there's a piano in the lobby of some hotel that you get to play while everybody's standing around. They don't ever even necessarily know.
Yeah. So how do you stay sane? Because I know you joked about the
I
suicide
don't.
thing, but obviously
Um,
uh, that is an issue, especially in music. We see a lot of these art. We were talking earlier about some of our favorite artists. Like, I still beat myself up for not seeing Linkin Park when you were touring with them. That's not going to happen now. And then there's Tom Petty, who I guess didn't directly kill himself, but basically killed himself. So and you see a lot of that kind of close up too. So that's got to have some kind of. What is your take on all that now? And as you know, that's a large part of why I'm writing my book, and that is the purpose of Another Way, is to find another way to deal with the exploitation and the depression and all of that. So what's your take on all that?
well, you bring up a good point, because there's a lot definitely. It's easy to be depressed even when everything is great. It's
Right.
easy to be depressed on the road, get carried away with drinking, and things like that. Pill popping, there's, for pain. I know a lot of situations like that. That's not me. I feel very blessed, but I've seen a lot of my coworkers go down in various different ways, from just trying to deal with the stress and getting divorced. There's a lot of that on the road, unfortunately, because you're gone all the time. It's not like you're
Right.
home. It can be very
Different
rough
lives.
on the wife, uh, and the husband, if you're a woman, and it can be really tough. You have to trust each other, and you have to be able to work everything out, and it's not an easy thing. Um, but it's you're also the breadwinner, and you're also making good money, and if it weren't for that, and it weren't for a lot of people don't do it just for the money. They do it because it's what they love to do, and it's what they have been doing forever. I never thought I'd still be on the road since 1994 when I started with Whitney Houston and Janet Jackson. So that was my first year out on the road with those two. It's like, oh wow, can it go up? Can it go up from there? And luckily it actually did. And I never thought that however that is, 28 years later, something like that, I'd still be touring. I thought, and it's kind of like this cycle. Once you get into it, kind of hard to get out of it. You get that phone call, and next thing you know, you're on a plane off to another country for months at a time. And
when Journey calls, how do you say no?
Right.
Yeah.
I now that they've got a new band, I'm really curious about them again.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about that, but anyway.
No, I haven't actually. They have a whole new band. How do they have a new band? They're Journey.
Well, Neil Sean's the only original member anymore. So, but he fired the drummer and the bass player for trying to get some more money out of them, basically. And so now they have Narda Michael Walden and Randy Jackson, who the American Idol, who used to play in Journey at one time. Now they're back together and they're building a new thing. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of
okay. So that's the new Journey, I guess.
New bass player,
Journey goes on. The journey goes on. It never ends.
It never does, man. Never does.
All right.
It's not easy to stay sane. Going back to like even when things are great. I've seen a lot of my buddies, go down kind of hard. It's great about the Tom Petty gig, because I did his last tour, was that entire crew is still communicating on a very large scale, where no one is left out of the loop. Every single person is forwarded messages. We literally used social media as therapy for all of us. After Tom died, we all expressed stories and talked about our grief and how we missed him, and presented different songs or situations or places that we were at where we saw some Tom thing or something. I mean, it's just really been an amazing thing. And unfortunately, some of these guys out there are, getting older, and they're dropping like flies left and right lately. And we just lost a couple other people from the Tom Petty tour just recently. And just the communication that happens through all our email contacts and what everybody says, it's just an absolutely therapeutic, beautiful thing.
That's true.
And it doesn't, you know what? It's never happened on any other tour I've ever been on. Of course, that was an absolute A-list tour. Every A-list crew, every A-list musician, A-list band, unbelievable situation. I would have done that absolutely forever. Rest in peace, Tom. It's just an amazing, amazing family. And it clearly shows that it was truly a family, the way we still communicate. Every other tour I've ever been on, once the tour's over, it's over. You're not, and maybe a couple people you still communicate with, or people maybe you'll tour with again, but which you never know initially. So it's been a great way to be able to cope, to be honest with you.
Have you seen, can you speak to a generational shift in, now that you've been doing it for so long, artists, not only the artists, but also the crew, but is there, like back in the day, I feel like there were a lot more drugs in general, and that was almost even encouraged, and managers and such was just loading up the artists with drugs just to keep them happy. Now that happens a little less, I think. And there's also the younger generations have, I'm always surprised, there's all these dry bars now. Dry bar is like the new thing. I love it. I personally love it. Have you heard about these dry bars? Oh, they're awesome.
What, really?
They're very, it's the millennial thing, which, I'm a millennial now, so I subscribe to it. But anyways, it's basically a bar with no alcohol, but you still get the social aspect of it. So I'm curious if you've seen a change in culture post-pandemic. I mean, do you see a difference in generations as far as your industry and the?
Yes. A lot of people are there's a lot of different hiring type schemes going on now too, when it comes to young people that want to perhaps get out on the road. I at one time was going to teach some classes about what it's like to be out on the road. and just my first keynote slideshow presentation is frightening, and half the people would walk out of the room because, like I said, it's just not for everybody. And I held one little seminar one time called I can't remember what I titled it, but it was basically, it started out with a list of all the things that I got hit with while I was a cameraman, hit with in the pit.
Oh, like physically.
A bottle, a peach, a rose in a plastic container, people slapping me, punching me, pushing me, throwing a drink in my face. The list is like, it's incredible. And it took me.
Well, the pit cameraman has got to be like the worst position.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. It's definitely it's definitely on the front lines. Let's put it that way. But it's, you know what? As a director, I kind of missed that spot because I was always hired to be a handheld guy, and because I was crazy, and I would sacrifice myself and my body to get the shot. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, right.
But it's an incredible spot because you're one of the few people in between the band and in between the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like you're kind of like the sandwich. You're kind of like the Oreo cookie filling in a sense. And you can feel the audience, you can feel the band, you can feel the connection, or if there is one or isn't one, and when it changes, and when one is egging on the other. And when it's an amazing spot. It really is. And if you're in tune with it, it can be really an incredible experience. It really can.
Nice. Yeah. See, that's what I miss.
Yeah. I miss that energy for sure. It's key to concerts to have that energy because I've seen bands just like come out and just be poop, and then the audience is just like so into them and loving them that they egg them on to become better. Mm-hmm. And they do. You watch that transition happen live and it's like, wow, hey, they're pulling their head out of their key.
That's part of what's so great about live performances. This is why I will not judge an artist until I see them live, because there is something about that interplay. And for me, part of being a musician and or a performer is about how you interact with that energy that you're getting from your audience. Absolutely. Right? That's where the art is in so many ways. It goes, some are studio musicians, and that's fine, or studio artists that they're all about recording the album. But I think there's another art to that, and that is it.
Oh, when that chemistry happens, you feel it. It's just amazing. I think actually, when I was doing handheld on Yanni one time, and I was literally in the middle of the orchestra. He had a 50 piece orchestra at that time. And when you're actually literally in the middle of an orchestra, not in the front conducting it, but in the middle of it, it's one of the most unbelievably exhilarating musical experiences and feelings you can ever get. If I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't know that. And it's overwhelming. It is absolutely, it makes your heart beat faster, your hair on your arms stand up. It's so intense. I recommend it to anybody, and it's not like a thing you could do, It's like, here we got a new gig over here where you get to stand in the middle of an orchestra, while they're like playing, something from Star Wars. I mean, it's intense. It's intense, and I loved that. It was so engulfing and encompassing, and like it was the true feeling of resonance, and I could just go on and on about it. It was wild. It was wild.
Well, I saw you with Yanni. But I saw Yanni at Radio City Music Hall when you were in New York.
Right. Wow.
And what was cool about that was because there was like instruments from all over the world. Like there really was a very full sound for that, and so many different sounds and instruments. It was a really cool show.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, if you're a musician, surround yourself with better musicians, and he had all the top people from all over the world at that time. Yeah. It was great.
Cool. So we are just about out of time.
Oh man, we could talk forever, you and I.
I know. It's just getting good
We'll have
too.
to do this
But
again, maybe, huh?
we should do it again, actually, because I do think that that's a whole side of music that people don't think about and don't see and don't even understand. And I think there's a value in hearing this for artists, for emerging performing artists, who is what I tend to work with. That I think there's a real value to listen to people like you and to hear people like you. And so thank you for showing us and your another way and kind of your perspective on everything. Do you have any kind of final comments or anything you want to share?
Well, the fact that there is another way, and we have to find another way right now. We're all
Yeah.
having to do that. I think it's really important to look at all the possibilities around you, which is something I balked at it at first, going, this is not going to last that long, and here we are months later, still in the same situation. So literally having to reinvent yourself is scary. But at the same time, what a perfect time to be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to reinvent myself on the road if I was, thinking about another job. You just wouldn't have the time. You wouldn't have the energy. And just being able to, not go anywhere and be able to be hunkered down without choice definitely allowed me to, retrain myself and relearn some things and push towards another direction in case this just doesn't really happen the way it used to.
Right. Nice. Cool. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
cousin. Good to see
And
you, baby.
see you all later. Good too. You too.
All right. Take
Bye.
care. Love you.